nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a podcast where a group of goofballs gather around to gab about music. I couldn't figure out a G word. Guitar sounds and things. We talk about music, talk about an album. We share each taking a turn one at a time, like a little book club for music. It's a fun podcast. We like
a cavalcade of crazies conversing over compositions. PD Ray.
Exactly.
Alliteration.
Exactly.
A cornucopia.
Yes.
Of
a cornucopia.
Corporeal. I'm done.
Yes.
Corporeal? What the word you were trying to say?
No, it was what was coming after that
Corporate.
that I couldn't figure out, but yes.
I'm Peter Raven, Man with No Plan. Here with me is my team, my goofballs, my crew. We've got Brett.
Hey, I don't have a witty one-liner, but I did show a picture of Rihanna with a mustache, and she looked like Prince.
Yes. We've got Drew.
Oi, oi, rude boy.
Yes.
Pick it up.
And we've got David.
And that's why they call it the Amsterdam vacuum pump.
Mm-hmm. We're here to talk about music, talk about an album. The provider of the album this week is Drew. Drew, what have you brought forth for the approval of the Midnight Society?
I don't know if it's going to be approved.
Consider if you will.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this story
The Tale of the Reggae Dudes.
If you will.
Is there a fire somewhere? No. But it's a band that, coming out of summer, I figured I have very little summer left, and this album, this band, this genre, actually, is one of those things that I listen to a lot more in the summer for some reason. It's a band from LA playing some old school style reggae music. It's the Aggrolites, and their fourth album, which is named 4.
Like the Huey
Like
Lewis
the number
album?
4 Record Breakers. At
Exactly.
4 Record Breakers on Twitter.
Like the front end of the the number.
Yes. Let's talk about this. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Reggae. Drew said reggae. I expected reggae. With probably more horns than I prefer with my reggae. But did not occur. So let's do the thing.
Yes. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I didn't know what this was going to be. I looked it up. I'm like, okay, the album is 4 and it's a double album. That's all I knew. I knew that there was a choice that Drew was making between one thing and another thing, but I did not know what either of those things were, so it did not help me at all.
Yes.
His cryptic Slack messages left me questioning.
Yes. I expected reggae with a slight lacking in melanin.
White people? You say there's white people in this band? From
It wasn't me
this
this time that said it. I didn't say it this time. It wasn't me.
Reggae
Yes.
is the most LA of music.
Yes. But
Motley
yes.
Crue and these guys.
Yes.
Give us a reggae!
Drew,
Wow, I forgot about all of that. Oh, damn, Axel.
give me some reggae, Drew. How would you describe this album musically?
Musically, it is, the Aggrolites do what I love in like the modern like ska reggae scene, which they end up mixing a lot of really cool sounds to make something unique. I've brought on bands such as Westbound Train and Deals Gone Bad before, and I think these guys do it in a more reggae fashion than the other two did. They were bringing in the soul side of things, but making it decidedly more ska. This brings in a little bit of soul, a little funky feel to the mix a bit, but very much the early reggae, very much that like a throwback to the mid late 60s sort of sound, even before you were getting into your Peter Tosches and whatnot. It's sort of uniquely Aggrolites. It's a band that, like, to me, once they come on, no matter which album you're pulling out, you can hear them. And a lot of it comes down to, in my opinion, Roger Rivas, who is the piano player for this band, the organ player, as it were. The organ tone that they get and the style that they get and the runs that he goes on at times are something that a lot of times with this style, the piano and the organ that you get is very bland. And it's very like, okay, you're gonna hit on the eighth. Like that's what you're doing. You're bouncing that note. All right, cool. It's sort of like what a lot of ska bands get with their guitar sometimes, which is you end up knowing what you're getting just because of the genre. Whereas I think Mr. Rivas varies it up a lot more than you sometimes get. Also, for being a record from Hellcat, it's something that's a lot, in my opinion, cleaner as far as like the tonality goes than you get from a lot of those bands.
Lars Fredriksson and the Bastards aren't the smoothest thing in the world?
No, they're weird. It's not the smoothest tone you get out of like those sorts of bands from Hellcat. And that's something too, is like it's very like the tonality and the feel of it is this very smooth, chilled out sort of thing, but it's still fast, it's still danceable, it's still like you're expecting these dudes to be in pork pie hats and suspenders and button-up shirts and such like that. And if you look up some of their live shows, they are. And that's sort of who this band is. 4 to me is sort of the one that really always, from front to back, sort of is the best collection and the best sound overall to me, which is why I brought that. But you hear 4, you know a lot of what you're getting with the Aggrolites, which I think is really cool, which is a funky feel to it and a lot going on while it being like a just really danceable groove.
David, how would you describe this album musically?
First of all, PD Rave, I want to be very, very clear on something. I want to give the biggest shout out of all to Aggrolite's lead vocalist, Jesse Wagner. And I just want to say to Mr. Wagner, the David Ruffin influence in your voice is not lost on me. Their lead singer, Jesse Wagner, is an outstanding vocalist, and I absolutely loved his voice just as a singer. I know that a lot of times in this style of music and any of its kind of cousins or offshoots, the vocals aren't always a priority. But in this case, lead vocalist Jesse Wagner, in my opinion, was an absolutely outstanding singer. I found this to be incredibly enjoyable, much more enjoyable than I would have expected from something from this genre and something with this sound, because this is a genre that usually loses me after a couple of songs because I have that little thing in my head that needs dynamics in my music. And this whole album, for as much as it contained, had a lot of musical dynamics. So it held me from start to finish. Everything Drew said I would want to compound. There were moments of Hammond organ that I really, really appreciated, and just things that I didn't expect overall from what really felt like just kind of a solid piece of this genre with little splashes of things that kept it interesting.
Yeah, it does do a lot of really cool things musically for sure. Like without getting into much of a miasma. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
The sun is a miasma of incandescent plasma.
Bars.
This is
Brett with bars.
This is most importantly about this album, there's a lot of it. But it's reggae. It's so you got to get down on the upstroke when it comes to guitars. You're about you have to expect there to be some organ and maybe some crazy electric piano that's kind of got some fuzz on it. The bass, you expect the bass to do more of a rocking back and forth than a walk. It still moves, but it's not it's not going for a run. It's going to have some fun hand percussion that goes along with the subtle but effective drum work. This is not melt your face off. There's sort of a stereotype of the type of person who listens to the reggae music. Not the most intense group of people that you would sample. It's sort of a chill out kind of genre.
Are you saying that they take part in a lot of the devil's cabbage, as it were?
Jazz cabbage? The devil's lettuce? Yes.
Wacky tobacco.
That's right.
Drew, do you think these gentlemen might need to have a word with Stephen A. Smith, is what you're saying?
But they're not on contract, and they're from L.A.
Because I want them to keep making this music.
Stay on.
They're allowed because they're musicians. Yep.
I need you to stay on the weed.
The weed.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who thinks that is offensive. How dare we tie reggae to smoking weed? But of all of the white dudes that are into reggae that I've ever met,
you know who ties reggae?
The non-white dudes too.
I was gonna say, you know who ties reggae to smoking weed? Rastafarians.
And what did they know on this topic? But yeah,
about which one, smoking weed or reggae? Because yes,
both. But yeah, there's a lot of reggae on this album, and reggae isn't necessarily the most broad genre. It's do 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 do. Yeah, you can come up with a reggae song in your head pretty easily, but when there's something to
about
reggae.
The message and whatever, yeah. So
and as a noted not lyrics listener, a lyrics ignorer, I had to sink into it. But yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, reggae
length and width.
Yes, reggae was born of a similar situation as many like blues, which is poor people. So it was originally more of like something made by musicians that weren't necessarily educated, but mostly just passionate. So like
those amazingly educated bluegrass players.
Yes.
Oh jeez.
But like, yeah, it doesn't have a huge variety in sound, but this does a lot of really cool things with it, and it does a cool thing of having songs sound like almost like they were standards. Kind of going back to last week's, like if they're playing an old timey song, even though these are all freshly written. Like a song that was handed down, almost like with some of like the lyrical content, like especially, and I think it's pretty effective, and it's a cool feel. But let's talk about some of those key tracks. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, Firecracker, I have to start with, of course. Not only is it the first one, but if I were to like pick out one song that like I would put in front of somebody to sort of give them an idea of not only what I like in the Aggrolites, but like the like sort of modern reggae thing as a whole. Firecracker is sort of it for me. Like Deej said, the vocals here are a very high point on the record. There's a gravelly, rich vocal to it. The bouncy organ rhythms, the palm muted upstroke with like a little bit of twang here and there. It's a band that, like, in my opinion, this song sort of highlights that they know what they like. They know the sort of like sound and music and feel that they like, and they're gonna do it even if like maybe a part here and there is like, wait, you put that part in a reggae album? Yeah, that's kind of what we did, and we're okay with that. We're gonna do our thing. The Suffer, it to me, the Suffer almost sounds like somebody was like, hey, we need a modern sounding, like almost stereotypical like ska reggae song for this movie to just sort of plant in here as that Jamaican sounding thing in this like stereotype scene, and almost comes up with that to a fault in this one. It's I love it. I'm a simple man. I'm okay with that. But it's something that's like, wow, you could not have made a more like by the books, like sort of Jamaican sounding song than that one. And then keep moving on. Highlighting Roger Rivas insanely well. The organ is just a lovely, lovely bit in Keep Moving On. And it peppers underneath everything. If you don't like the organ that's going on in this song, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know who hurt your soul. Like, that song is just
Phantom
great.
of the Opera looked at you dirty.
If you don't
Hate
appreciate the organ in this, don't at me. Just don't.
Right. Like, it's just a beautiful thing. Like, even if you're not a huge fan of reggae, it's like, man, that organ player is doing some stuff. And he's like, you can tell, like, he cares about doing the stuff that he's doing, and that's cool. Man.
David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Drew already mentioned The Sufferer, so I will move on to Gotta Find Someone Better, which, in my opinion, would have fit in perfectly in the Motown Revue circa 1966. And it, as I said, the vocals on this song were about as reminiscent of David Ruffin as I've ever heard. The Least I Could Do is another one of the tracks that really had the organ really stand out to me, and I really appreciated that. Also, Wild Time, and just there were so many different tracks that had those moments that sounded like reggae with doo-wop and reggae with some of that old Motown sound that I just really appreciated. And I think Gotta Find Someone Better was really the highlight.
Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I don't know if this has been brought up yet, but Firecracker. Firecracker, they've got a vibra slap, yo. And they used it optimally. If you don't know what one of those things is, I can't even. It kind of sounds like a rattlesnake rattle. It goes. Brrr, you slap it. Google it.
There's a block and there's a ball and then a bunch of metal and then you hit one end and it does and it's real cool.
And they use it just enough. You guys know I love that shit. It was one of my springs from other albums, but no, this is standard, not sproing. But the keys on this album, they're good. I don't know if you've heard that yet, but they're pretty good. Firecracker was a great way to start the journey that is this album. Feeling all right. I dug down into the lyrical contents. A song about persevering and when not getting recognition, and it being okay, and you surviving.
For sure.
I'm sure as a bunch of reggae players, they know that very well.
Yes.
That they're probably not going to get like a ton of mainstream appeal, which is fine.
A very small but very passionate group.
Yeah, but
People.
It's pretty groovy. But I probably remember it most because there's strangely placed use of a sitar. But that's just me. Tear That Falls. I almost read that as tear, and I was like, oh no, my favorite pair of pants. Like what? Like this is a song at the other end of the track list. It's a pretty simple track, but they throw in like the very slightest bit of organs, and castanets. I'm okay with both of those. It's a quite chill track on a very chill album. And I wrote down here early on, you can see why stoners dig this genre. But yeah, there's a lot of this going on. But those are the ones that stuck out with me.
Yeah. I would love to give a shout out to Brother Jacob, which goes back to my point earlier of like a song that sounds like it should be an old standard track. Like some either some blues guy back in the day or some reggae guy back in the 60s would be singing this song because it was passed down to him in another form or something like that because of the lyrical content, and does it well. Like it's convincing in that respect, and I like that about it. Yeah, I think that one was the one that stood out for me, including on top of the ones that were already mentioned. But let's talk about some conclusive thoughts. Bring it back around the horn. David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
This is the best reggae I've ever heard. Period. Blank. I probably enjoyed it as much as I did was because with the core being very authentic and being very real, it also had moments where the Aggrolites were not afraid of allowing other influences in. The doo-wop influence, the soul influence. And those things really, really worked for me. Once again, the lead singer, Jesse Wagner, outstanding vocalist. And just overall, it hit a lot of marks for me. It had plenty of dynamics. It had plenty of organ. It had a really good singer. And I didn't mind that. As a lyrics listener, I really didn't mind that there wasn't a ton of really, really intensely emotional things going on. I didn't really mind because everything was done exceptionally well. So I'm all about this. I'm all about it.
Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
With me, a little bit of reggae goes a long way. I don't dislike it, but there's a lot of it here. I bet my opinion on this entire album would be a little bit higher if it came in smaller doses or a few songs were left on the cutting room floor. I just brought a double album full of absolute sameness for the most part. So, I'm not one to judge, or I have no room to judge. I am totally one to judge. That's what we do here. But
it's kind of our shtick.
Yeah, it's criticism we have no.
I like everything.
Yeah,
I like some things, but not enough to listen to it again. This is it's a good time. It's like a good time that closed down the after party. I'm good for a while. And I think that anybody out there could be good for a while. It's definitely worth a shot. And if I ever want to see what kids from LA are up to in the reggae scene, I know where to go. At least yes. I have a place that I can start and work from.
Yes, you have somewhere to go with the Aggrolites. I think this is a really solid, if a little bit bog standard reggae offering, but I think the dynamics the dynamics that they kind of pepper in there do make it not get bogged down. The vibra slap, gotta love that vibra slap. And I think overall it was finally. This is a weird thing. It was finally nice to be able to figure out what that album that I keep scrolling past on my Spotify saved albums, because this album I had saved a while back, and I think it's because Drew had said he was possibly going to pick it, so it was always there.
And then I took a left turn somewhere and was like, "No, let's do this other record instead."
And then it was just there, and I kept whenever I would sort by name, I would just pass by this. Oh, Aggrolites 4. and it would just be there, and it was an album that I remembered and I visually could remember. But
in Japan, it was called Aggrolites 3. The numbering convention was screwed up, so
yeah.
they also call
Japan didn't get Aggrolites 3, so they renamed 4-3 so that
it's actually a Game Boy game, but it's completely different. Yeah,
exactly. Game Boy Reggae.
Well,
That would be crazy.
There's shipping Reggae somewhere, I guarantee.
So are we ever going to get Aggrolite 6? Is that going to happen?
I mean, it's my favorite Aggrolites by far. Everybody likes 7, but 6 is really strong.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Aggrolites 8
is really underrated.
Really gets a shaft.
Aggrolites 8 is really underrated.
The drumstick turns into a gun, and when you hit that snare, you have to time it just right to get your attack to. Yeah,
exactly. Drew,
we're totally talking about reggae here, Drew. What's your problem?
What is your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Before we get to mine, you say 8 is underrated. I don't know if anybody saw a certain YouTube live stream where they said, "Hey, we're bringing to the thing that everybody bought from us. We're bringing 7, 9, 10, and 10 too," and didn't say shit about 8.
Can't get the rights to that jacket.
I don't know what you're talking about, Drew.
My boy Squall.
RPG stands for Reggae Playing Guys. We're talking about the Aggrolites.
Yeah. The RPGs of LA.
Getting the shaft.
No, but like the Aggrolites to me are one of those bands that they didn't completely reinvent the wheel. They add some cool stuff to it. Maybe some white walls. Maybe a nice rim, as it were. But they're not reinventing it. They're making it their own. They're sort of adding their own style to it.
Job. That's right. Got to mount and balance that shit.
I don't get it.
But it's a band that started as there was 2 ska bands that sort of broke up and sort of parts came together. I hate it
when it came together.
Being
These guys came together to
came together.
Some people go their entire relationships without doing that.
And it's fine.
One's always
fine
with the other.
It's fine.
Fine.
It's fine.
But they formed as like a backing band for Derek Morgan. Derek Morgan has worked with some of the names that everybody knows. Like, I don't know, little names like Jimmy Cliff and Desmond Decker and I don't know, Bob Marley. Like Derek Morgan is a legend in his own right. And then they were like, you know what, this is fun. Why don't we just do this all the time? And then like as they were doing their own thing as the Aggrolites, people like Prince Buster and like came up to him and was like, "Hey, could you play the music for me too? Because that'd be pretty cool." Like when you have people like that respect what you're doing, that were like the dudes in Jamaica, like originally doing it, you got to be doing something right. And I think that the Aggrolites are doing a lot right. Like DJ said, they mix genres here and there. There's a little bit of soul, a little bit of funkiness here and there. Like I said, a little bit of Motown here and there, but that to me is what's special about it, and that's to me is what's cool, and what keeps me listening to the Aggrolites is, yeah, it's reggae, and usually, like Brett, too much reggae. I'm a ska guy, so I'm more faster upstrokes, horns, a lot more going on in the band.
A lot more bass doing stuff. A lot more everything.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Weird. But to me, the Aggrolites is that band that's like, yeah, no, they still got stuff going on in the background, like some reggae. So there's a lot more going on, and I think it's true to form of the early reggae, the old school reggae, the skin type stuff, but it's something that is not like firmly feet planted in that, and they're not going anywhere. They let themselves wiggle around a little bit, and I think that's what makes them more interesting.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle. No.
Yes. Wiggle it just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Make it smooth. Yes, those are our thoughts on the Aggrolites 4. Now we get to the main event of the evening. We get to our
Drew is going to do
haikus.
racist accents, everybody.
Yes.
Racist accents. We made it all the way through here without anybody bringing up an unsavory rendition of the things that every comedian ever made, and I'm proud of us. We can talk about
but when we do, you can let us know at the Swagger on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah.
What a guan, brother. Pick it up.
Pick it up.
I mean, the racism of pick it up is not there. Okay.
No. The race
Hup,
of
people who have dropped something and need you to pick it up.
And that's also
Review haikus, PD Rave.
Yes.
Get your boot-wearing ass into the skank for a while.
Review haikus.
All right, let's get down to the haikus. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Haikumero numero uno. David, what is your haiku?
Reggae and doo-wop. Two great flavors together. This guy can sing.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what is your haiku?
A new gem from Drew. Double albums can be long. A schload of reggae.
Yes. My haiku. Whole lot of reggae. Executed with panache. And a classic style. And finally, Drew, what is your haiku?
Great reggae music from some rude boys in LA. Sunny day music.
Yes. Some fantastic stuff from the Aggrolites. Also, I made the comment of lacking melanin. They should point out that do have Roger Rivas, who's obviously.
I was going to say, I think they
are-
have two Mexicans.
Yeah, to have
I mean, yeah.
to have
It's
they
LA.
to have Latinx members.
Not Indianapolis reggae.
Exactly.
There's culture in LA.
Exactly. So it's just not.
I'm sure there's culture in Indianapolis.
Not
I
reggae
will-
culture.
I wanted to correct that earlier aside.
Yes.
As a Latinx member, a Latinx person myself, I wanted to give them a shout out. Big ups. But yeah, those are our thoughts on the Aggrolites. Number 4. Really cool album. You can of course check it out on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Follow along at home. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. On that Spotify playlist will be next week's record. And it's gonna be we hotly booked. We're gonna have a guest. We're gonna have the one, the only, a friend of ours from a couple circles, Meg. She go by Meg, even though her Twitter handle claims she is not Meg. Well, it says she's not Megan. Remember that. It's not
Wait.
Megan. It's Meg.
She a Twitter handle that doesn't specifically reference your name?
Exactly. It specifies what she's not. But Megan's going to come on with with the band a lot of people have heard of, Ghost, and the album Infesting Your Mom.
And enter name here.
Infestation Ma'am. Festival of
Something Latin.
there you go.
Thing.
Some crazy death metal stuff. Look forward to that.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
No, they're not.
It's kind of like a motif. Going with a motif and a style. So look forward to that. But that's next
No,
week.
they're not. No, they're not.
That is next week, and this is this week. And you can of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at HibbityBirdBird, HIBBI2YBIBBRD. Drew is at XDruciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com, RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com, Rebelli.net for this and other shows, Rebelli TV on YouTube, Find us everywhere you find podcasts, on iTunes, Stitcher, all over the place. You got an RSS feed.
Give
on
us the 5
website.
stars on iTunes.
Give us some
5
reviews,
stars
give
on
us some
iTunes.
feedback. I forgot to mention last week, but give us feedback about what you think about the album. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what your haikus are. Tell us what your haikus are. So,
Send us haikus.
Add
I
us.
will personally read them
At us.
throughout the
Yes.
damn podcast.
yes.
Better than me
okay.
talking about the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yes.
No, nothing is better than that.
Give me that sweet Georgia Brown.
Yes. But that's that for this week. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
And until next time, ending message.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.